The rain had not stopped for 3 days in Lagos. Park Jae-won stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his hotel suite, watching the city drown beneath sheets of gray water. His reflection stared back at him, sharp jawline, hollow cheekbones, eyes that had forgotten how to feel anything but cold. He had come to Nigeria for business.
A shipping deal. Nothing more. But then he saw her. Across the lobby.
27 floors below. A woman in a white blouse, her natural hair pulled back, her profile unmistakable even after 5 years.
Olivia. His dead wife.
Stay with me, because this story will not let you go. Like, share and subscribe, and comment I stayed so I know my real ones are watching. 5 years ago, Park Jae-won had buried an empty casket. The funeral had been held on a Tuesday morning in Seoul, beneath a sky so blue it felt like mockery. His men had stood in perfect rows, heads bowed, while he placed white chrysanthemums on polished mahogany that contained nothing but weighted sandbags.
They never found her body.
The car had gone off the bridge at 2:13 in the morning. The Han River had been swollen from weeks of rain, the current vicious and unforgiving. Divers searched for 6 days. They recovered the vehicle, crushed, empty, driver's side door torn clean off.
But not her. Never her.
Jae-won had stood at the edge of that bridge every night for a month afterward.
Not to jump.
Just to stare at the water that had swallowed the only woman he had ever allowed himself to want. The only woman he had destroyed before he could love her properly. Now, 5 years later, he watched her walk through the lobby of the Eco-Atlantic Tower Hotel with 3 small children trailing behind her like ducklings. 2 boys and a girl, all of them around 4 years old, all of them with skin the color of warm honey and eyes shaped like his own. Jae-won's hand pressed against the glass. His heart, which he had convinced himself no longer functioned, began to beat again. Olivia Namdi had learned to sleep with one eye open. It was a skill born from necessity, from 5 years of running, hiding, rebuilding herself from ashes she had never asked to become. She had learned to check exits before entering rooms, to memorize faces in crowds, to trust no one whose kindness came without a price. Tonight, that vigilance saved her life.
She felt him before she saw him.
A presence at the edge of her vision. A stillness that did not belong in the cheerful chaos of the hotel restaurant where she sat with her children, cutting their jollof rice into smaller pieces and wiping sauce from chins.
She looked up. And the world stopped.
He stood near the entrance, dressed in a charcoal suit that cost more than her monthly rent. His dark hair was longer than she remembered, pushed back from a face that had grown sharper, harder, more dangerous in the years since she had last seen it. But it was his eyes that made her blood freeze. Those eyes had not changed. Black as river stones. Deep as the water she had pretended to drown in. They were fixed on her with an intensity that made breathing difficult.
Park Jae-won. Her husband.
The man she had faked her own death to escape.
Mommy. Olivia blinked.
Her daughter was tugging at her sleeve, small fingers sticky with tomato sauce. Mommy, you're squeezing the fork too hard.
Olivia looked down.
Her knuckles had gone white around the metal. She forced herself to relax, to smile, to become the woman her children knew, calm, steady, unbreakable.
Sorry, baby.
Mommy just remembered something. She did not look toward the entrance again. She did not need to. She could feel his gaze like a blade pressed against her throat. Finish your food quickly, she said, keeping her voice light. We need to go upstairs soon. But I'm not done with my plantain, her son David protested. You can take it with you. Mommy, that's weird. Life is weird sometimes. Eat faster. She gathered their things with hands that barely trembled. She had practiced this. Rehearsed it in her nightmares. The moment he found her. The moment her carefully constructed life collapsed like a house built on sand. She had always known it would come. She just had not expected it to come here, in the city where she had finally started to feel safe. Jae-won did not approach her in the restaurant. He watched her leave instead, watched her gather the 3 children with practiced efficiency, watched her smile at the waiter and sign the check and walk toward the elevators without once looking back.
She knew he was there. Of course she knew.
Olivia had always been perceptive. It was one of the things that had drawn him to her in the beginning, back when she was a 23-year-old law student at Yonsei University and he was the heir to the Park Crime Syndicate, a man whose name made judges nervous and prosecutors disappear. She had not been afraid of him. That should have been his first warning.
Sir. Jae-won turned.
His second-in-command, Kwon Tae-sung, stood 3 feet behind him with the deference of a man who had learned the hard way not to interrupt his boss's silences. The car is ready. Your meeting with the Nigerian delegation is in 40 minutes. Jae-won looked back toward the elevator.
The doors had closed. She was gone. For now. Cancel it.
Tae-sung's expression did not change, but his voice carried a note of careful confusion.
Sir. The meeting. Cancel it.
Reschedule for tomorrow. The delegation flew in from Abuja specifically for. I do not care if they flew in from the moon. Jae-won's voice was soft. It was always soft when he was at his most dangerous.
Cancel it. Now. Tae-sung bowed. Yes, sir.
He disappeared, phone already pressed to his ear. Jae-won walked toward the elevators. He had spent 5 years mourning a ghost. 5 years believing the only woman he had ever loved had chosen death over life with him. 5 years wondering what he could have done differently, what words he should have said, what cruelty he should have swallowed.
Now he knew the truth. She had not died. She had run.
And she had taken his children with her. The suite was on the 14th floor. Jae-won had bribed the front desk manager. A simple transaction, money for information, the kind of exchange that made the world turn. He now knew her room number, her checkout date, and the name she was registered under.
Olivia Namdi.
She had taken back her maiden name. She had erased every trace of him from her identity. He stood outside her door for a long moment, hand raised to knock. The Korean-African symbolic tattoo on his inner wrist, interlocking patterns of the Park family crest woven with Nigerian Adinkra symbols, seemed to pulse beneath his skin. He had gotten the tattoo 3 months into their marriage.
A private commitment.
A promise written in ink and blood. She had cried when she saw it. He had not understood why until much later. Now, standing in a hotel hallway 5,000 miles from Seoul, he finally knocked. The door opened 6 inches. Half of Olivia's face appeared in the gap, one dark eye, one elegant cheekbone, lips pressed into a line that could have meant anything.
Go away. Her voice was different. Harder.
Flattened by years of survival. We need to talk.
No. We do not.
You let me believe you were dead. The words hung between them like smoke.
Her eye did not waver.
And you let me believe I had no choice.
Jae-won's jaw tightened.
Open the door, Olivia.
Or what?
You'll break it down? Storm in like the gangster you are. Her laugh was bitter cold.
Go ahead.
My children are sleeping in the next room. Explain to them why a strange man is destroying their mother's hotel room. They are not just your children.
Silence.
The gap in the door widened by half an inch.
You saw them, she said quietly. 2 boys. 1 girl.
Around 4 years old. His voice dropped to something raw. They have my eyes, Olivia. My mother's mouth. Do you think I would not recognize my own blood? For the first time, something flickered in her expression.
Fear. Guilt. Defiance. All 3 at once. They are mine, she said. Only mine.
You gave up any claim to them when you... When I what?
She stopped.
The silence between them grew teeth.
Open the door, Jae-won said again.
Or I will have this entire hotel on lockdown within the hour. Every exit sealed. Every guest questioned. Your face on every security screen in Lagos. He leaned closer to the gap, close enough to smell the familiar scent of shea butter and something floral. You know what I am capable of. You know I will do it. Her eye closed briefly. When it opened, it was wet.
5 minutes, she said.
And you stay by the door. The suite was modest by Jae-won standards. 2 bedrooms, a small living area, a kitchenette cluttered with children's snacks and coloring books. Evidence of a life lived carefully, frugally, on the edge of something that could collapse at any moment. Olivia stood near the window, arms crossed over her chest. She had changed since he last saw her. She was thinner. Sharper. The softness he remembered from their wedding night had been replaced by something harder, forged in whatever fire had kept her running for 5 years. She was still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen.
Their names, he said. She did not move. Olivia.
David, she said finally.
Grace. And Michael. They turned 4 in March. March. His mother's birthday month.
Something cracked in his chest.
Why?
She laughed, a harsh broken sound.
Why what?
Why did I let you think I was dead?
Why did I run?
Why did I raise your children alone in a country you would never think to look for me? She turned to face him, and he saw the tracks of old tears on her cheeks. Because you were going to kill me, Jae-won. The words hit him like a bullet.
What? Do not play innocent.
It does not suit you. She stepped toward him, 5 feet of contained fury in a woman who used to flinch at raised voices. I heard the conversation.
Your study.
3 days before the accident. You and your lieutenant, the one with the scar on his neck. He asked what you wanted done about the problem.
And you said, her voice broke.
You said to handle it quietly. To make sure no one found the body. Jaewon's mind raced backward, searching through 5 years of memory.
His study. 3 days before. And then he understood. The accountant, he breathed.
Olivia's expression flickered.
What?
Kim Sang-woo. The accountant who was skimming from the Busan operation. Jaewon's hands had begun to shake, with rage, with grief, with the enormity of the misunderstanding that had cost him everything. He was stealing from my family. 300 million won over 18 months. I ordered him handled because he had already fled the country, and I could not risk him talking to the police.
He stepped toward her, and she stepped back.
I was not talking about you, Olivia. I was never talking about you. Her face had gone pale. You are lying. I have never lied to you. Not once in 18 months of marriage. His voice cracked on the last word. I did not even lie when I told you I did not love you on our wedding night. I thought I did not know how. I thought I was too broken to feel anything but anger and ambition. He stopped, 3 feet away from her, close enough to see the rapid pulse in her throat.
I was wrong. About everything. About us.
Olivia's hand pressed against her stomach, an unconscious gesture of protection. You threatened me, she whispered. When I told you I was pregnant.
You said.
I remember what I said. The shame of it flooded through him, as fresh as the day it happened.
18 months ago.
The memory surfaced like a corpse from deep water. Olivia had told him in his study, her hands clasped in front of her, her eyes bright with something he had not been able to name.
Hope, perhaps. Or fear. Or both. I'm pregnant.
And he, cold, damaged, terrified of anything that could be used as leverage against him, had reacted the only way he knew how. Get rid of it.
3 words. 3 syllables.
3 bullets to the heart of a woman who had already given him more than he deserved. She had stared at him as if he had struck her.
J1.
I said get rid of it. I did not marry you to breed heirs. I married you because my mother was dying and she wanted to see me settled. The arrangement was business.
Nothing more.
The lie had tasted like acid on his tongue. Even then, he had known it was a lie. But admitting the truth, admitting that he had grown to crave her presence, to listen for her footsteps, to sleep better when she was beside him, would have been weakness. And weakness was something Park Jae-won could not afford. You cannot make this decision without me, she had said quietly. Watch me. He had turned back to his papers. Dismissed her like a servant. And 3 days later, her car had gone off a bridge. I did not mean it, he said now, in the hotel room that smelled like children and loss. I was afraid. I was a coward. And I have spent 5 years paying for it. Olivia's tears were flowing freely now, though her voice remained steady. You do not get to apologize your way out of this. You do not get to show up after 5 years and claim you have changed. She wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. I have built a life without you.
A good life.
My children go to a good school.
They have friends.
They have never once wondered why their father does not love them, because they have never known they have a father at all.
They have a father.
They have always had a father. A father who told their mother to abort them. A father who is the head of a criminal empire.
A father who.
A father who will spend the rest of his life making it right. Jae-won dropped to his knees. The movement was so sudden, so unexpected, that Olivia stumbled backward against the window. What are you doing? What I should have done 5 years ago. He looked up at her, and for the first time since she had known him, his eyes were wet. I am begging. I have never begged for anything in my life. I watched my father die and I did not cry. I buried my mother and I did not bend. But I will kneel on this floor until my knees bleed if that is what it takes to make you understand. She stared at him as if he had grown a second head. Understand what? That I loved you. His voice shattered on the words. I loved you so much it terrified me. I loved you so much I convinced myself it was a weakness that needed to be cut out before it destroyed me. And when I thought you were dead, he stopped breathing hard. When I thought you were dead, I realized the only thing I had destroyed was myself. Olivia's hand covered her mouth.
Get up, she whispered.
Not until you say you will let me try. Not until you give me one chance, one single chance, to know my children.
To know you again.
To prove that I am not the monster you ran from. You are the head of the Park Syndicate.
You kill people.
I have not killed anyone in 3 years. I have been restructuring.
Legitimizing.
Moving the family businesses into shipping, real estate, pharmaceuticals.
Clean industries. Legal money. He swallowed hard.
I started the day after they declared you dead. I told myself it was for efficiency. For the future of the organization. But the truth is I could not stomach blood anymore. Not after yours was the only blood I wanted on my hands.
She flinched.
That came out wrong.
Yes. It did.
A small voice cut through the tension like a knife.
Mommy. They both turned.
A little girl stood in the doorway to the bedroom, rubbing her eyes with one fist. She had her mother's nose and her father's cheekbones, and her hair was braided into 2 perfect puffs tied with yellow ribbons.
Grace. His daughter. Mommy, who is that man?
Why is he on the floor? Olivia moved immediately, crossing the room to scoop her daughter into her arms. He is just someone Mommy knows, baby. Go back to bed. But he looks sad. Jae-won felt his heart tear cleanly in 2. I am sad, he heard himself say. But I am hoping I will not be sad for much longer. Grace peered at him over her mother's shoulder. Why are you sad? Because I made a very big mistake. And now I am trying to fix it. The little girl considered this with a gravity only a 4-year-old could muster. My mommy says when you make mistakes, you say sorry and try to do better. Your mommy is very wise. Grace smiled, a bright, guileless expression that contained none of her parents' damage.
She is.
She is the best mommy in the whole world. Olivia pressed a kiss to her daughter's temple. Bed.
Now.
I will be there in 5 minutes. Grace allowed herself to be carried back into the bedroom. The door closed behind them. Jae-won was still on his knees when Olivia returned.
Get up, she said again.
You look ridiculous. He rose slowly, his joints protesting. I meant every word. I know you did. That is the problem. She leaned against the wall, arms wrapped around herself like armor. I spent 5 years convincing myself you were a monster. It was easier that way. It made the running feel justified. It made the lying feel necessary.
She met his eyes.
But monsters do not kneel. Monsters do not cry. Monsters do not restructure criminal empires because the sight of blood reminds them of the wife they drove away. What are you saying? I am saying I do not know what to do with you. Her voice was exhausted, wrung out. I have been running for so long I forgot how to stand still. And now you are here in my hotel room, telling me you have changed, and my daughter just told you to apologize and try to do better, and I...
She broke off.
Her shoulders began to shake. Jae-won crossed the room before he could stop himself. He pulled her into his arms, and she let him, collapsing against his chest with a sob that sounded like it had been building for half a decade. I am not asking you to forgive me tonight, he murmured against her hair. I am not asking you to come back to Seoul or let me move into your life. I am asking for time. Supervised time with the children. A chance to prove that I can be the father they deserve. And maybe, a chance to prove I can be the husband you deserved from the beginning.
She cried harder.
I do not trust you.
I know.
I am terrified of you. I know that too.
And I still, she choked on the words.
I still dream about you.
Every night. For 5 years. I have tried to stop.
I have tried to hate you completely. But there is always some part of me that remembers the way you used to hold me before you got out of bed. The way you would brush my hair without being asked. The way you...
She stopped herself. Pulled back.
Wiped her face with shaking hands.
1 week, she said.
You have 1 week. We stay in Lagos.
You meet the children, as a friend. Not as their father. Not yet.
And if at the end of the week I do not feel safe, you go back to Seoul and you never contact us again. Jae-won's chest expanded with something he had not felt in 5 years.
Hope. 1 week, he agreed.
This is not forgiveness.
I know.
This is not reconciliation. I know that too. This is me giving you the chance you never gave me when I told you I was pregnant. The words hit their mark. Jae-won nodded slowly. I understand. Olivia walked to the door and opened it. You should go. I need to check on the children. He walked past her, pausing in the doorway. Up close, he could see the fine lines around her eyes that had not been there 5 years ago. The silver threads in her natural hair. The weight she carried in her shoulders. She was older. More beautiful. More broken. Just like him. I will not waste this chance, he said quietly. See that you do not. The door closed between them. Jae-won stood in the hallway for a long moment, pressing his hand against the painted wood. On the other side, he heard Olivia begin to cry again. He walked away. He would not push. Not tonight. But the week had begun. And Park Jae-won had never failed at anything he truly wanted. The next morning dawned gray and humid. Jae-won was waiting in the hotel lobby at 7:45, dressed in a simple white shirt and dark trousers, the most casual clothing he had packed for this trip. The tattoo on his wrist was visible below his rolled sleeves, the interlocked symbol seeming to pulse with each beat of his heart. At 8:15, the elevator doors opened. Olivia emerged first, dressed in a flowing green dress that made her look like something from a painting. Behind her came the children, David and Michael holding hands, Grace skipping ahead with the boundless energy of a 4-year-old who had slept well. Jae-won rose from his chair. Their eyes met across the lobby. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Grace spotted him and waved enthusiastically. Mommy, it is the sad man from last night. He does not look sad anymore. Olivia's lips twitched despite herself. No, she said quietly. I suppose he does not. The first day was awkward. They went to a children's museum, neutral ground, Olivia had insisted. Public. Safe. The kind of place where Jae-won's dark reputation could not follow them, where he was just another tall man following 3 small children through exhibits about dinosaurs and outer space. The boys were cautious around him. David kept glancing at him sideways, as if trying to figure out a puzzle he could not quite solve. Michael hid behind his mother's legs whenever Jae-won came too close. But Grace was fearless. Do you have any children? She asked him while they waited in line for the planetarium show. Jae-won's throat tightened. Why do you ask? Because you keep looking at us like you want to cry. My friend Amara's daddy looks at her like that sometimes. She says it is because he loves her very much. Grace tilted her head. Do you love us very much? Olivia's hand flew to her mouth. Jae-won knelt down to Grace's level. I just met you, he said carefully. But I think you are very special. And I would like to get to know you better. Is that okay? Grace considered this. Do you like dinosaurs? I have not thought about it much. Well, you should. Dinosaurs are the best. She grabbed his hand with the casual confidence of childhood. Come on. The show is starting. She dragged him toward the planetarium doors. Behind them, Olivia watched with an expression Jae-won could not read. The week unfolded slowly. Each day brought new moments, small, precious, unbearably fragile. Jae-won learned that David loved mathematics and hated vegetables. He discovered that Michael was the artist of the family, covering every available surface with crayon drawings of ships and storms. He watched Grace perform elaborate dances to songs she made up on the spot, demanding applause with the confidence of a born performer. They were his children. They had his stubbornness and their mother's warmth. And they had no idea. When are you going to tell them? Jae-won asked on the 4th day. They were sitting on a bench in a playground while the children climbed a structure that looked alarmingly unstable. Olivia had not let him sit this close to her since the hotel room. I do not know, she admitted. I have spent 4 years building a story. Their father was someone I knew in Korea. A good man who died before they were born. A man who would have loved them if he had the chance. She looked at him. How do I tell them that story was a lie? How do I tell them their father is alive, sitting right here, and the reason they never knew him is because I was so afraid of him I faked my own death? You tell them the truth. Part of it, at least. The part they can understand. And what part is that? That I made a terrible mistake. That I hurt their mother. That I have spent the last 5 years trying to become someone worthy of them. He paused. And that I am sorry. More sorry than they will ever understand. Olivia was quiet for a long moment. You really have changed, she said finally. I told you I had. I know. But hearing it and seeing it are different things. She watched the children, her expression soft. You are good with them. Patient. Present. You are not the man I married. I am not. That man died the night he thought you did. She flinched. I am sorry I let you believe that. I am sorry I took your children and disappeared. I am sorry I... Do not. Jae-won turned to face her, his voice rough. Do not apologize to me. You did what you had to do to survive. You heard a conversation that sounded like a death threat, and you ran to protect yourself and your babies. That is not cowardice. That is love. Her eyes filled with tears. I thought I was done crying.
So did I.
5 years ago. Clearly we were both wrong. A small laugh escaped her, broken, wet but real. It was the first time she had laughed in his presence since he found her.
The 5th day brought danger.
Jae-won felt it before he saw it, a prickle at the back of his neck, the instinct that had kept him alive through 2 decades of underworld warfare. They were at a waterfront restaurant, the children exhausted from a day at the beach, when he noticed the man.
40s. Korean features.
A scar running from his left ear to his jaw. He was pretending to read a menu at a table near the exit. But his eyes never left Olivia. Take the children to the bathroom, Jae-won said quietly. Olivia's face went pale. What is happening?
Just do it. Now. And lock the door.
She gathered the children without argument, her survival instincts kicking in instantly. David protested, but I have not finished my ice cream. But she silenced him with a look and herded them toward the back of the restaurant. Jae-won waited until they were out of sight. Then he walked toward the man with the scar. The conversation was brief. Who sent you? The man's hand moved toward his jacket. Jae-won's hand was faster, grabbing the man's wrist and twisting it behind his back before he could reach whatever weapon he was carrying. I asked you a question. I do not know what you are talking about. I am just a tourist. Jae-won applied pressure. Something in the man's wrist cracked.
He screamed.
I will ask once more. Who sent you?
Councilman Shin. The man gasped. Shin Dong-hwan.
He said to find the woman and report back. He said she had information that could destroy him. Jae-won's blood ran cold.
Shin Dong-hwan.
His father's oldest ally. A man who had sat at Jae-won's right hand for 15 years. A man who had wept at Olivia's funeral and sworn to help Jae-won destroy whoever was responsible for her death. A man who had, apparently, been the reason she ran in the first place. What information? The man was crying now, his face pressed against the table.
I do not know.
He just said she overheard something. Something that could expose him. He has been searching for her for 5 years. Jae-won released him. The man collapsed, cradling his broken wrist. Deliver a message to Councilman Shin, Jae-won said softly.
Tell him I know. Tell him I am coming.
And tell him that when I arrive, there will not be enough left of him to identify.
He walked away.
Behind him, the man scrambled for the exit. Olivia was waiting in the bathroom, her children pressed against her legs.
What happened?
Who was that man? Jae-won looked at the 3 small faces staring up at him, frightened, confused, trusting him to make everything okay.
We need to talk, he said. Somewhere private.
It is about why you really ran. Olivia's face went white. Not in front of them.
No. Not in front of them. But tonight. He met her eyes.
I think I know who wanted you dead, Olivia. And it was not me. The color drained from her face completely.
Who? Someone I trusted.
Someone who has been lying to me for 5 years. Someone who is going to pay for every tear you have cried since the night you drove your car off that bridge. His hand curled into a fist. The tattoo on his wrist seemed to burn.
Councilman Shin Dong-hwan, he said.
My father's oldest friend. And apparently, the man who convinced you I wanted you dead. That night, after the children were asleep, they sat on the balcony of Olivia's suite. The city sparkled below them, Lagos alive with the energy of 8 million souls living their lives in blissful ignorance of the darkness that had just touched their shores. Start from the beginning, Jae-won said. Tell me everything. Olivia's hands wrapped around a cup of tea she was not drinking. I told you about the conversation in your study. You and your lieutenant. But there was someone else there. Someone I did not see until I was already backing away from the door.
Jae-won's jaw tightened. Who? Councilman Shin.
He was standing in the hallway. He saw me eavesdropping.
She shuddered. He smiled at me.
It was the most terrifying smile I have ever seen. And then he said, I see you understand your situation now, Mrs. Park. I would recommend you make arrangements. And he walked away. Why did you not tell me? Because I thought he was warning me about you. I thought he was your ally, that he was giving me a chance to run before you had me killed.
Her voice cracked.
And then I found the note.
What note?
Someone slipped it under my bedroom door that night. After you and I argued about the pregnancy. It said, she closed her eyes. He will never let you leave.
Not with the child.
Run now or die tomorrow.
No signature. No explanation.
Just those words. Jae-won's blood had turned to ice. You never saw the note?
I burned it.
I was so frightened, I did not want any evidence that I knew.
She opened her eyes. I planned. Obsessively. Compulsively. I withdrew cash.
I memorized routes. I contacted an old friend from university who had connections to people who could create documents, new identities. And 3 days later, I drove to the bridge. At 2 in the morning. The current was strongest then. I knew they would not find a body if the current was strong enough. Her laugh was hollow. I am an excellent swimmer. My father made sure of that. I drove the car to the edge, put it in neutral, and jumped before it went over. I swam to the other bank. My friend was waiting with dry clothes and a new passport. By the time they started searching the river, I was already on a plane to Dubai. Jae-won could not speak.
The sheer planning.
The terror that must have driven her. The love for her unborn children that had given her the strength to orchestrate her own disappearance.
I am sorry, he managed. For what? For all of it.
For making you believe you needed to run. For not seeing what was happening under my own roof.
His voice broke.
For telling you to get rid of them. Every day I think about those words. Every day I wish I could reach back through time and cut out my own tongue. Olivia set down her tea.
She reached across the table.
Her fingers intertwined with his. I believe you, she said quietly. I believe you did not want me dead. I believe Councilman Shin was working against us both. But that does not erase 5 years, Jae-won. That does not give me back the pregnancy I endured alone, or the birth I almost did not survive, or the first words and first steps and first everything that you were not there for.
I know.
I do not know if I can love you again. I do not know if I can ever feel safe with you.
I do not know. You do not have to know. Not tonight. He squeezed her hand.
Tonight, we focus on the threat. Councilman Shin has been searching for you for 5 years. He knows you are here. He knows you are with me. And he will not stop until he silences whatever it is he thinks you know. Olivia's brow furrowed. But I do not know anything.
I heard a conversation about an accountant.
That is all. That cannot be all. There must be something else. Something you saw or heard without realizing its significance.
Jae-won leaned forward. Think.
In the weeks before you left, did anything unusual happen? Did the councilman come to the house more often? Did you overhear any other conversations? She shook her head slowly.
Then stopped.
There was one thing.
What? A file. On your desk.
I was not supposed to see it. I was just bringing you tea, and you had stepped out to take a call.
It was open.
I only saw it for a second. What was in it?
Bank statements. Dozens of them.
All in different names. But the account numbers, they had the same prefix. And there was a photograph clipped to the top page. A woman I had never seen before. Nigerian, I think. Very beautiful. And written on the back of the photograph, she paused, straining to remember.
2 words. Phase 1.
Jae-won's face had gone very still. A Nigerian woman, he repeated.
Yes.
Why? Does that mean something to you? It meant everything. It meant the answer had been in front of him for 5 years. It meant Councilman Shin had been running an operation Jae-won knew nothing about. An operation that involved Nigerian contacts and phased planning and bank accounts in false names. And it meant Olivia had stumbled onto something far more dangerous than a simple accounting discrepancy.
I need to make a call, Jae-won said.
He rose from the table. His hand was already reaching for his phone.
Jae-won. He turned back.
Olivia was standing now, her face pale in the city lights. Whatever you are about to do, she said. Whatever war you are about to start. My children cannot be caught in the middle.
Promise me.
He crossed back to her in 3 steps. His hands cupped her face.
I promise, he said. On my mother's grave. On my father's honor.
On everything I have left to give. His thumbs brushed away tears she did not realize she was crying. David, Grace, and Michael will never be touched by my world. I will burn it all down before I let anyone harm them. Or you. She stared up at him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then she rose onto her toes and pressed her lips to his.
The kiss was brief.
Barely a breath. But it shattered something in Jae-won's chest. Make the call, she whispered against his mouth.
And then come back.
We have a lot more to discuss.
She walked inside.
Jae-won stood on the balcony, his heart pounding. Then he dialed a number he had not used in 3 years.
Tae-sung. Wake up the council. All of them.
We have a traitor to unmask. The next 48 hours were a blur of encrypted calls and coded messages. Jae-won's network sprang to life across 3 continents. Men and women who owed him favors, who feared his name, who would move heaven and earth at his command. Information flowed in from Seoul, from Tokyo, from New York and London and Cape Town. Councilman Shin had been busy. For 15 years, he had been running a shadow operation within the park organization. Money laundering on a massive scale, using Nigerian shell companies and falsified shipping manifests to move billions of won through untraceable channels. The proceeds had funded everything from political campaigns to arms deals to, most damningly, the purchase of 3 judges on the Seoul High Court. And the Nigerian woman in the photograph? Her name was Sandra Okonkwo. She had been Councilman Shin's partner. She had also been found dead in the Han River 2 weeks after Olivia's staged accident. He is cleaning house, Jae-won said on the 7th day, spreading documents across the desk in his hotel room. Anyone who might be able to connect him to the operation. Anyone who might have seen something they should not have seen. Olivia stared at the photograph of Sandra Okonkwo.
She looks like me, she whispered.
Jae-won had noticed that too. The resemblance was not perfect, but it was striking. The same bone structure, the same proud tilt of the chin. If someone had wanted to confuse witnesses or create false trails, using 2 Nigerian women who looked similar would have been an effective strategy. I think he planned to frame you, Jae-won said slowly. If his operation ever came to light. You were the foreigner who married into the family. The outsider no one fully trusted. If he needed a scapegoat. I would have been perfect. Olivia's voice was flat. A dead woman who could not defend herself. But you did not die. And you saw the file. And now you are the only person alive who can connect him to Sandra Okonkwo and the shell companies. I barely remember what I saw. That does not matter. He does not know that. All he knows is that you are alive, you are with me, and every day you spend talking to me is another day you might remember something that destroys him. Olivia sat down heavily. What do we do? Jae-won looked at her, at the mother of his children, at the woman he had driven away and mourned and found again against all odds. We end him, he said simply. Before he ends us. The plan came together over 3 days. Jae-won called an emergency council meeting in Seoul. All members required to attend in person.
No exceptions. No delays.
He claimed he had uncovered evidence of a major security breach, which was technically true, and demanded every senior member of the organization present themselves for a full review. Councilman Shin agreed immediately.
Too immediately.
He knows it is a trap, Tae-sung said over the encrypted line.
He has to know. Of course he knows.
But he cannot refuse without confirming his guilt. His only option is to attend and try to control the narrative. Jae-won's voice was cold. Make sure the evidence is ready.
All of it. Bank records. Communications. Photographs.
I want the truth laid out so clearly that even his allies cannot pretend to ignore it.
And if he runs? He will not run. Men like Shin do not run. They fight until the end, convinced they can talk their way out of anything. Jae-won paused.
But have men at every exit anyway.
Just in case. Yes, sir.
Jae-won ended the call. Olivia was standing in the doorway of the hotel room, the children visible behind her, watching cartoons on the bedroom television. You are going back to Seoul, she said. It was not a question.
For the council meeting.
2 days at most.
And then I come back.
And we figure out what comes next. He crossed to her, stopping just short of touching her. I know I have no right to ask you to wait for me. I know you have every reason to take the children and disappear again.
But
I will be here.
He blinked. What?
I said I will be here. When you get back. Her eyes were steady. Not because I trust you completely. Not because everything is forgiven. But because my children deserve to know their father.
And because she hesitated.
Because I am tired of running. I have been running for 5 years, and I am exhausted. If you can end this, if you can make us safe, then I owe it to all of us to stay and see what happens next.
Jae-won's throat tightened. Olivia.
Do not say anything else.
Just go.
Do what you need to do. And come back alive. Her voice cracked on the last word. Because if you die on me after I finally started believing you might be worth trusting again, I will never forgive you.
He pulled her into his arms. She let him. For a long moment, they stood there, two broken people holding each other together. I will come back, he whispered into her hair. I swear it. You better. He kissed her forehead. Then he let go. And walked away. The flight to Seoul took 14 hours. Jae-won spent every minute of it reviewing evidence, rehearsing confrontations, and ignoring the fear that had taken up residence in his chest. Fear was unfamiliar territory. He had spent decades training himself not to feel it. But now he had something to lose. 3 somethings, actually. 4, if he counted Olivia. He landed at Incheon Airport at 6:17 in the morning, Seoul time. Taesung was waiting with a car and a briefcase full of documents. The council is assembling at noon. All 12 members confirmed. Councilman Shin arrived last night. And his demeanor? Calm. Confident. He greeted the staff as if nothing were wrong. Taesung paused. He also asked about you. Several times. Wanted to know where you had been for the past week. What did you tell him? That you were handling a sensitive matter in Africa. He did not ask for details. Good. Keep it that way until the meeting. The car pulled away from the curb. Seoul unfolded outside the windows, skyscrapers and neon signs and the familiar weight of a city Jae-won had ruled since his father's death. This was his kingdom. His empire. The world he had built from blood and ambition. But it felt different now. Smaller somehow. Less important. Sir. Jae-won turned. Taesung was watching him with something that might have been concern. You seem different. Since Africa. I am different. I found something I thought I had lost forever. May I ask what? Jae-won looked back at the city. A reason to live, he said quietly. For something other than power. The council chamber was a study in intimidation. Black marble floors. Walls lined with portraits of previous park patriarchs, their painted eyes following every movement. A long table of polished oak, surrounded by 12 chairs, each occupied by a man who had killed to reach his position and would kill again to keep it. Jae-won entered last. He always entered last. It was a power play, letting them wait, letting their anxiety build, reminding them who held the final word on everything that happened in this room. Today, though, his attention was focused on one man. Councilman Shin Dong-hwan sat at the far end of the table, his silver hair immaculately combed, his face arranged in an expression of benevolent concern. He looked like someone's grandfather. He looked like a man incapable of ordering a woman's death. He looked like the snake he had always been. Gentlemen, Jae-won said, taking his seat at the head of the table. Thank you for coming on such short notice. I know some of you traveled great distances. Of course, of course. Councilman Shin waved a hand. Anything for the family. You said there was a security breach. There is. A significant one. Jae-won nodded to Taesung, who began distributing folders to each council member. What you are holding is evidence of a shadow operation that has been running within our organization for 15 years. Money laundering. Bribery. Murder. All conducted without my knowledge or approval, using park resources and park connections. The room went very still. The operation was centered in Lagos, Nigeria, Jae-won continued. It involved shell companies, falsified shipping manifests, and the systematic theft of over 200 billion won from our legitimate business interests. Councilman Shin's face had not changed. But his hands had tightened on the edge of the table. These are serious allegations, he said smoothly. Do you have proof of who was responsible? I do. Jae-won met his eyes. Turn to page 47. 12 pairs of hands flipped through documents. And then, one by one, 12 pairs of eyes turned to Councilman Shin. On page 47 was a photograph of Shin Dong-hwan standing beside Sandra Okonkwo. They were smiling. He had his arm around her waist. The timestamp in the corner placed it 3 weeks before Sandra's body was found in the Han River. This is, the councilman's voice cracked. This is fabricated. Someone is trying to frame me. Turn to page 53. More flipping. Page 53 contained bank records showing transfers from 12 shell companies to an account in Switzerland. The account holder's name was listed as Shin Dong-hwan. Page 61. A transcript of an encrypted call between Councilman Shin and a man named only the accountant. In the call, Shin explicitly ordered the murder of Sandra Okonkwo. And finally Jae-won said, page 74. The room fell silent. Page 74 contained a note, handwritten, scanned, enlarged.
The handwriting analysis confirmed it matched samples from Councilman Shin's personal correspondence. He will never let you leave.
Not with the child.
Run now or die tomorrow. The same note that had been slipped under Olivia's door 5 years ago. Councilman Shin rose from his chair. His face had gone pale, then red, then pale again. You have no right. I have every right.
Jae-won's voice was ice. You threatened my wife.
You drove her to fake her own death. You made me believe I was a monster who had destroyed the only woman I ever loved. And you did all of it to protect your pathetic little side business. Your wife was a liability.
She saw the files.
She could have exposed everything.
She saw bank statements.
She did not even understand what she was looking at. Jae-won slammed his hand on the table. You killed Sandra Okonkwo because she was your partner and she knew too much. You tried to kill Olivia because she looked like Sandra and you thought you could frame her if things went wrong. And you have been searching for her for 5 years because you were terrified she might remember something that could bring you down. The other council members were backing away, putting distance between themselves and the condemned man. I demand a vote, Councilman Shin said desperately. I demand a formal tribunal.
You cannot.
I am the head of this organization. Jae-won rose slowly.
I do not need a vote.
I do not need a tribunal. I need only to say the words.
He looked at his lieutenant.
Tae-sung drew a knife from his jacket. Councilman Shin Dong-hwan, Jae-won said, for crimes against the Park family, for theft, for murder, and for acts of treason against your sworn oath, you are hereby expelled from this council and sentenced to.
The councilman moved.
Faster than a man his age should have been able to move. He grabbed a gun from beneath his jacket, a gun he should never have been able to bring into this room, and aimed it directly at Jae-won's chest. If I am going to die, he snarled, then so are you. The shot echoed through the chamber. And Park Jae-won watched as the man who had destroyed his marriage, stolen 5 years of his life, and threatened the mother of his children crumpled to the ground with Tae-sung's knife buried in his throat. Tae-sung had thrown it before the trigger was fully pulled. The councilman's shot went wide, shattering a portrait of Jae-won's grandfather. Jae-won stared down at the body.
He felt nothing. No satisfaction. No relief. No triumph.
Just exhaustion. It is over, he said quietly. Around him, the council members began to murmur among themselves. Jae-won did not hear them. He was already reaching for his phone. Already dialing a number he had memorized in the last week. Already waiting to hear the voice that had become the only thing that mattered.
Olivia? It is done. He is dead. You are safe. He closed his eyes.
I am coming home. 47 hours later, Jae-won walked through the doors of the Eco-Atlantic Tower Hotel.
He had not slept. Had not eaten.
Had not done anything except sit on planes and think about the woman waiting for him on the 14th floor. The elevator ride felt endless. The hallway stretched before him like a runway. The door opened before he could knock. Olivia stood there in a simple blue dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. Behind her he could see the children, his children, watching with wide eyes.
You look terrible, she said.
I feel terrible.
Come inside.
The children have something they want to tell you.
He stepped through the door.
Grace ran up to him immediately, grabbing his hand with the same fearless confidence she had shown on the first day. Mommy told us, she said breathlessly. Mommy told us you are our daddy. Jae-won's knees went weak.
She did.
She said you made mistakes but you are trying to be better. She said that is what good people do, they try to be better even when it is hard. Grace looked up at him with eyes that were exactly like his. Are you trying to be better, Daddy? Jae-won dropped to his knees. The tears he had been holding back for 5 years finally broke free.
Yes, he whispered.
I am trying. Every single day. Grace wrapped her arms around his neck.
Good, she said.
Because I have been waiting a very long time for a daddy.
And I do not want to wait anymore.
David and Michael approached more cautiously, but they came.
They stood close. They watched.
And then David, quiet, serious David, reached out and placed his small hand on Jae-won's shoulder. Mommy says you will keep us safe, he said.
I will.
I swear it. Then you can stay. Coming from a 4-year-old, it sounded like a royal decree. Jae-won laughed through his tears. Olivia knelt beside him, her hand finding his. Welcome home, she said softly. He looked at her, at the woman who had survived his cruelty, escaped his world, raised his children alone, and still found the strength to give him another chance. I love you, he said. I should have said it 5 years ago. I should have said it every day of our marriage.
I love you, Olivia.
And I will spend the rest of my life proving it. She cupped his face in her hands. Then stop talking, she whispered, and start proving.
She kissed him.
And this time, neither of them pulled away. 3 weeks passed in something like peace. They stayed in Lagos, all 5 of them, while Jae-won's lawyers worked to restructure his business interests and establish a legitimate presence in Nigeria. He rented a house in Ikoyi, a sprawling compound with high walls and security cameras and enough bedrooms for each child to have their own. Olivia protested the extravagance at first. We do not need this much space. The children need a yard. Somewhere to play that is not a hotel room. The children have played in hotel rooms for 4 years. They survived. Surviving is not living. Jae-won's voice was gentle but firm. I want them to have a childhood. I want them to have what I never had, a home that feels safe. She did not argue after that. The truth was, she wanted it too. She had spent so long running that she had forgotten what it felt like to stand still. To wake up in the same bed every morning. To watch her children learn the layout of a house, claiming favorite corners and secret hiding spots. They adapted quickly, as children do. David discovered the library on the second day and declared it his territory. Michael claimed the garden, spending hours drawing the flowers and birds that visited the mango tree. Grace took over the kitchen, insisting on helping with every meal and covering herself in flour at every opportunity. And Jae-won learned how to be a father. It did not come naturally. He had been raised by nannies and tutors, his own father a distant figure more interested in empire building than child rearing. He did not know the words to lullabies. He did not know how to braid hair or tie ribbons. He did not know how to respond when Michael had nightmares or when Grace asked questions he could not answer. But he learned. Night after night, he sat beside their beds and made up stories. Week after week, he practiced hairstyles on a doll Olivia had bought him, laughing at his own clumsiness until the children laughed with him. Day after day, he discovered new things about these 3 small people who carried his blood and their mother's spirit. They were not perfect. Neither was he. But they were his. And for the first time in his life, Park Jae-won understood what it meant to belong to something that mattered more than power. The trouble started on a Thursday. Jae-won was in his home office, reviewing contracts for the new shipping partnership, when Tae-sung appeared in the doorway with a face like stone. We have a problem. Define problem. Someone has been photographing the house. Our security teams caught a man in a car across the street this morning. He had been there for at least a week, based on the footage we pulled from nearby buildings. Jae-won's blood went cold. Did they apprehend him? They tried. He ran. Fast. Professional. He knew exactly how to disappear. And the photographs? We recovered a camera he dropped during the chase. It contained over 300 images. The house. The gates. The children at their school. Mrs. Park at the market. Tae-sung paused. And several shots of you, sir. Including one where your tattoo is clearly visible. Jae-won stared at his lieutenant. Councilman Shin is dead. Yes, sir. Then who is continuing his work? That is what we are trying to determine. Our analysts are reviewing his communications, looking for any contacts we might have missed. But sir, Tae-sung hesitated. There is something else. Tell me. The camera. It was Korean-made. High-end surveillance equipment. The kind our organization uses. He took a breath. The serial number was registered to our Busan warehouse. It was requisitioned 3 months ago by someone using Councilman Shin's authorization codes. The implications settled over Jae-won like a shroud. Someone within his own organization was continuing Shin's agenda. Someone who had access to resources, codes, and information. Someone who had been watching and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Increase security, Jae-won said quietly. Double the teams. I want eyes on my family at all times. And I want a full audit of everyone who had contact with Councilman Shin in the 6 months before his death. Every assistant. Every driver. Every person who brought him coffee. Yes, sir. Tae-sung turned to leave. Tae-sung. Sir. Find them. Before they find us. Olivia knew something was wrong the moment Jae-won entered the kitchen. She was helping Grace roll dough for chin-chin, her hands covered in flour, her laugh fading as she registered the tension in his shoulders. Children, go wash up for dinner. But we are not finished. Now please. Something in her voice made them obey without further protest. David gathered his siblings and herded them toward the bathroom, shooting curious glances over his shoulder. Once they were gone, Olivia wiped her hands on a towel.
What happened? J1 told her.
He watched her face as she absorbed the information, the photographing, the surveillance, the equipment traced back to his own organization. He watched the color drain from her cheeks and her hands begin to tremble. I thought it was over, she whispered.
So did I.
You said Councilman Shin was dead. You said we were safe.
Councilman Shin is dead. But he had allies.
People who benefited from his operation. People who might be trying to finish what he started.
To finish what she stopped.
You mean kill me? I will not let that happen.
You cannot promise that.
You could not promise it 5 years ago, and you cannot promise it now.
Her voice cracked.
I ran halfway around the world to escape this. I gave up everything, my name, my country, my family, to keep my children safe. And now you are telling me it followed us anyway.
Olivia.
What do we do? She was crying now, tears cutting tracks through the flour on her cheeks.
Do we run again?
Find another country, another identity, another life? How long before they find us there too?
J1 crossed the kitchen.
He took her face in his hands.
We do not run, he said firmly.
Running did not work 5 years ago, and it will not work now. The only way to end this is to find whoever is behind it and stop them.
Permanently. How?
I have resources.
I have people.
And I have something I did not have 5 years ago.
What? A reason to fight. He kissed her forehead.
I am not the same man who drove you away, Olivia. I am not going to hide in my office while you face this alone. We face it together.
All of us.
As a family.
She stared up at him.
When did you become someone I could believe in? The night I found you in that hotel lobby. The night I realized I had a second chance I did not deserve. He wiped her tears with his thumbs. I will not waste it. I swear on everything I am.
She nodded slowly.
Then she leaned into his chest and let him hold her. Outside, the Lagos evening settled over the city. And somewhere in the darkness, a phone buzzed with a new message.
Confirmed.
They are not leaving. Proceed with Phase 2. The investigation took 3 weeks. J1's analysts worked around the clock, tracing connections and cross-referencing data. They interviewed former associates of Councilman Shin. They examined financial records going back 15 years. They mapped relationships and alliances and debts, building a picture of the shadow network that had operated beneath J1's notice for so long. And finally, they found the answer. It was not what J1 expected. Her name is Shin Eun-ji, Tae-sung reported. Councilman Shin's daughter. She has been running the Lagos operation remotely from Singapore for the past 3 years. J1 stared at the photograph on his desk. A woman in her late 30s.
Sharp features.
Eyes that held nothing but cold calculation. She looked like her father, the same silver-tongued charm masking something rotten underneath. I did not know he had a daughter. He kept her out of the public eye. Educated her in Europe. Trained her in Singapore. By all accounts, she was being groomed to take over his operations after his death.
Tae-sung paused.
She knows you killed him. And she has been planning her revenge ever since. What kind of revenge? According to our sources, she intends to take everything from you. Starting with your family. J1's hand curled into a fist. Where is she now?
Still in Singapore.
But she has operatives in Lagos. At least 4 that we have identified. They are watching the house, the children's school, and Mrs. Park's regular locations.
Pull them in. All of them.
I want to know everything they know about Eun-ji's plans. Sir, if we move on her operatives, she will know we are onto her. She may accelerate her timeline. Then we accelerate ours. J1 rose from his desk. I want a team in Singapore by tomorrow. Surveillance only for now. I want to know her patterns, her weaknesses, her vulnerabilities. And when we have enough information.
We move. We move.
Tae-sung nodded and left. J1 stood alone in his office. The tattoo on his wrist burned. He had thought he was done with killing. He had thought the restructuring, the legitimization, the shift toward legal business had put that part of his life behind him. But for his family, he would do anything. Even become the monster he had tried so hard to stop being. Olivia found him on the balcony that night. The children were asleep, their soft breathing audible through the baby monitor on the nightstand.
The house was quiet.
The city sprawled beneath them, lights glittering like scattered diamonds. You found out who it is, she said. It was not a question. Yes. Are you going to tell me? Councilman Shin's daughter. She has been running his operations from Singapore. She wants revenge for his death. Olivia absorbed this in silence. What are you going to do? Whatever I have to. She moved to stand beside him, her shoulder brushing his. I used to hate that about you, she said quietly. The way you could turn everything into a transaction.
Threat assessment. Resource allocation.
Acceptable losses.
She paused.
I thought it meant you did not feel anything. That you were hollow inside.
I was. For a long time.
And now. Jae-won turned to face her. In the dim light, with her natural hair loose and her face bare, she looked like the woman he had married, young and hopeful and impossibly brave. But she was not that woman anymore. Neither was he the man he had been. Now I feel too much, he admitted. Every time I look at the children, every time I watch you laugh or cry or lose your temper over spilled juice, I feel everything I spent 30 years trying not to feel.
Fear. Love. Desperation.
The knowledge that if anything happened to any of you, I would burn the world down and not care about the ashes.
Olivia's breath caught. Jae-won. I am going to Singapore, he continued. Tomorrow.
I need to handle this personally. To make sure it ends completely.
And what about us?
What do we do while you are gone?
You stay here.
With security.
Tae-sung's best people.
I will only be gone a few days.
A few days.
Her laugh was bitter. Do you know how many terrible things can happen in a few days?
I know.
But the alternative is waiting for her to strike first. Waiting for something to happen to you or the children that I could have prevented.
He took her hands. I cannot do that.
I cannot sit here and wait for my family to be hurt when I have the power to stop it. She squeezed his fingers. Promise me you will come back.
I promise.
Promise me you will not do anything reckless. Anything that might get you killed.
I
promise me, Jae-won.
He looked into her eyes, dark, fierce, terrified. I promise, he said.
I will come back to you. To all of you. No matter what it takes. She rose onto her toes and kissed him. It was not a gentle kiss. It was desperate, bruising, full of all the fear and love neither of them could put into words. Her hands fisted in his shirt. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer. When they finally broke apart, both of them were breathing hard.
Come inside, she whispered. He did not need to be asked twice.
The bedroom door closed behind them. The rest of the night faded to black.
Singapore.
Jae-won arrived at Changi Airport at 4 a.m, traveling under a false name with documents that would not trigger any alerts. Tae-sung had a car waiting, along with a briefing folder that contained everything they had gathered on Shin Eun-ji over the past 3 weeks. She lived in a high-rise apartment in Marina Bay. She maintained offices in the financial district. She conducted most of her business through encrypted communications, meeting in person only with her most trusted lieutenants.
She was smart. But she was not smart enough.
Our surveillance team has identified a weakness, Tae-sung reported as the car wove through pre-dawn traffic.
Her driver.
A man named Tan Wei. He has gambling debts.
Significant ones.
He has been skimming from her accounts to cover his losses.
Can we turn him?
We already have. He is expecting contact from us this morning. He will provide access to her building and her schedule in exchange for debt forgiveness and safe passage out of Singapore.
Jae-won nodded.
And the extraction plan?
Ready.
We have a team on standby. Once we confirm her location, we move. I want her alive. Tae-sung's eyebrow raised. Sir. She has information about her father's network. Contacts I do not know about. Operations I have not uncovered. Dead, she is useless. Alive, she is leverage. Understood. The car pulled into an underground parking structure. Jae-won stepped out into the fluorescent light. One more thing, he said. I want her to know who destroyed her. I want her to understand that every move she made, every threat against my family, every second she spent planning her revenge, was witnessed. Was anticipated. Was accounted for. You want her afraid. I want her broken. Jae-won's voice was cold. The same way she tried to break me. The operation went smoothly. Almost too smoothly. Tan Wei delivered as promised. Access codes, security schedules, a detailed layout of Shin Eun-ji's apartment. Jae-won's team moved at 3 in the afternoon, when most of her security was off duty and she was alone in her office reviewing financial reports. She did not even have time to scream. One moment she was reading a spreadsheet. The next, she was face down on her desk with Jae-won's hand on the back of her neck.
Good afternoon, Miss Shin. She went still beneath him. Park Jae-won.
Her voice was muffled but steady. I was wondering when you would come. You were expecting me?
I was hoping.
It would have been anticlimactic to destroy you from a distance.
She laughed, a brittle hollow sound.
But I suppose I miscalculated. You suppose correctly. Jae-won released her neck and stepped back.
Turn around. Slowly. She obeyed.
Up close, she looked less like her father than her photograph had suggested. Her eyes were different, sharper, more desperate. The eyes of someone who had spent their entire life in the shadow of a great man and was never quite able to step into the light. My father spoke about you often, she said.
The boy genius. The prodigy.
The one who would lead the Park family into a new era.
Her lip curled.
He never mentioned that you were also a coward who murdered an old man and fled to Africa to hide. Your father was a traitor who stole from my family, killed innocent women, and tried to destroy my marriage. His death was justice. His death was murder. And murders require payment. Is that why you have been watching my children? Photographing my wife? Planning to finish what your father started? Her expression flickered. You do not know anything about what I planned. I know everything. Jae-won pulled out his phone and played a recording. Her voice filled the room, clear, unmistakable.
Confirmed.
They are not leaving. Proceed with phase 2. The color drained from her face. How did you?
Your driver. Tan Wei.
He has been working for me for the past 2 weeks.
Jae-won put the phone away.
I know about your surveillance teams in Lagos. I know about your plans to kidnap my children. I know about the buyers you contacted in Eastern Europe who specialize in human trafficking.
She flinched.
I was not going to.
Do not lie to me.
His voice dropped to something dangerous. I have read the transcripts. You were going to take my children and sell them to men who would have done unspeakable things to them. You were going to send photographs of their suffering to my wife to break her. And when you were finished destroying everything I loved, you were going to kill me and claim my organization for yourself. Eun-ji's composure cracked. You killed my father. You took everything from me. Your father killed himself the moment he decided to betray me. I merely delivered the consequence. Jae-won stepped closer. But you chose to continue his work. You chose to threaten innocent children. You chose to become something even he might have been ashamed of.
He would have been proud. He would have been disgusted.
Your father was many things, but he was not stupid. He understood that some lines should never be crossed.
Children. Families. Innocence. Jae-won's voice was ice.
You crossed all of them.
She lunged for the desk drawer.
Jae-won caught her wrist before she could reach whatever weapon she was hiding. It is over, Eun-ji. Your operation is dismantled. Your operatives are in custody. Your accounts have been frozen. He twisted her arm behind her back. The only question that remains is what happens to you.
Kill me then.
Finish what you started.
No.
Jae-won released her. Killing you would be too easy. Too merciful. He nodded to Tae-sung, who stepped forward with handcuffs. You are going to spend the rest of your life in a cell, knowing that your father's legacy died with him. Knowing that his empire fell to the man he tried to destroy. Knowing that his daughter failed him in every way that mattered.
Eun-ji screamed, a raw, desperate sound.
She fought against the handcuffs. But it was useless. Tae-sung dragged her from the office while she cursed and spat and swore revenge. Jae-won watched her go.
And then he reached for his phone. It is done.
Olivia's voice came through the line, breathless with relief. She is in custody?
Yes.
Along with her entire network. The operation is finished.
And you? Are you hurt? I am fine.
Jae-won leaned against the window, looking out at the Singapore skyline.
I will be home in 2 days.
I just have to finish the paperwork.
Paperwork.
Her laugh was teary. Only you would call dismantling a criminal conspiracy paperwork. It is mostly documents. Transfers of assets. Legal proceedings.
He paused.
I missed you. You have only been gone 36 hours. It felt like 36 years. She was quiet for a moment. The children have been asking for you. Grace made a card. David drew a picture of a man with a very large sword fighting a dragon. I think it is supposed to be you.
I hope I won at least. You did.
The dragon is very dead. There is a lot of red crayon. J1 smiled despite himself. Tell them I will bring presents.
You do not have to. I want to.
For all of you.
His voice softened.
I have spent 5 years not being there for birthdays and holidays and random Tuesdays. Let me make up for it.
She sighed.
You are impossible. And yet you love me anyway.
A pause. Then, yes.
I suppose I do.
J1's heart stopped. Olivia.
Do not make a big deal out of it. I am just, she took a breath. When you were gone, I realized something. I spent 5 years hating you. Fearing you. Running from you. But underneath all of it, there was always this piece of me that remembered why I married you in the first place. Not the arrangement.
Not the business.
The way you held doors open without thinking about it. The way you remembered that I took my tea without sugar even though I never told you. The way you looked at me sometimes, when you thought I was not watching, like I was the only thing in the world worth looking at.
You were. You are. I know. Her voice cracked.
I know that now. And I am tired of running from it. I am tired of protecting myself from something that might actually be good for me.
So, yes.
I love you. I probably never stopped. And when you get home, I want to. She did not finish. But J1 understood.
2 days, he said.
I will be there in 2 days. I will be waiting.
The call ended.
J1 stood at the window for a long time, watching the city lights blur through the tears he was not ashamed to let fall. He returned to Lagos on a Sunday afternoon.
The flight had felt endless.
The customs line had felt eternal. The drive from the airport had felt like crossing galaxies. But finally, the car pulled through the gates of the Ikoyi compound.
And they were there. All of them.
Grace was first, launching herself at him before he had fully exited the car.
Daddy.
You are back. Mommy said you were fighting dragons, and I told her that was silly, but then David showed me his picture, and I said maybe it was real after all and...
Breathe, little one.
J1 lifted her into his arms. I missed you too. David and Michael approached more slowly, but they were smiling. David held out his dragon picture with solemn pride. I drew this for you. The dragon is very dead.
I can see that.
It is an excellent dragon.
Very dead.
I knew you would like it. Michael tugged at J1's sleeve. I drew one too. But mine has flowers. Because flowers are better than dragons. Flowers are wonderful. J1 knelt to see the drawing.
This is beautiful, Michael.
I will hang it in my office.
Michael beamed.
And then J1 looked up. Olivia stood on the porch, arms crossed over her chest. She was wearing a simple yellow dress that made her look like sunlight given form. Her hair was pulled back with a scarf. Her eyes were wet.
You came back, she said.
I promised I would. He set Grace down gently. Children, can you give me and your mother a moment? I brought presents from Singapore. They are in the car. The children scattered with delighted shrieks. J1 walked up the porch steps.
He stopped in front of Olivia. Hello.
Hello yourself. They stared at each other. And then she threw herself into his arms. He caught her, held her, buried his face in her hair. She smelled like home. Like everything he had ever wanted and thought he could never have. I love you, he whispered. I know. I want to spend the rest of my life proving it. I know that too. Marry me again. She pulled back, eyes wide. What? Our first wedding was an arrangement. A transaction. Neither of us wanted to be there. He cupped her face in his hands. I want a real wedding. One where we choose each other because we want to, not because someone told us to. One where our children can be there. One where I can stand in front of everyone who doubted us and say, this woman is my wife. And I will love her until the stars burn out. Olivia's tears spilled over. You are ridiculous. Is that a yes? It is I do not know what it is.
You just got home.
You are covered in airplane smell. I am crying in front of the children. Is that a yes? She laughed, bright, wet, full of everything. Yes. Fine. Yes. I will marry you again, you impossible man.
J1 kissed her.
Behind them, 3 small voices erupted in cheers. The wedding was held 3 months later.
Not in Korea.
Not in a cathedral or a ballroom or any of the places the old J1 would have chosen. They married on a beach in Lagos, with the Atlantic Ocean stretching endlessly behind them and the African sun painting everything gold. Olivia wore a gown of traditional Nigerian design, osso oak fabric in shades of cream and gold, her hair wrapped in an elaborate gele that made her look like a queen. J1 wore a simple black suit, the Korean African tattoo visible on his wrist as he held her hands and repeated vows he had written himself. I promise to listen when I want to speak, he said. I promise to stay when I want to run. I promise to choose love over fear, every single day, for the rest of my life.
And I promise, his voice cracked.
I promise that I will never again give you a reason to doubt that you are the most important person in my world. Olivia squeezed his hands. I promise to trust when I want to hide, she said. I promise to forgive when I want to hold grudges. I promise to believe in second chances, even when they scare me. And I promise, she smiled through her tears. I promise that our children will always know their father loves them. Because they will see it every day, in every small thing you do. The officiant pronounced them husband and wife.
J1 kissed his bride.
Their children cheered. And somewhere in the crowd, Taesung wiped his eyes and pretended he had gotten sand in them.
1 year later. The house in Ikoyi had become a home.
Drawings covered the refrigerator. Toys cluttered the hallways. The sound of children's laughter echoed through rooms that had once felt too big, too empty, too much like a showpiece and not enough like a place where people lived. J1 had transferred most of his business operations to Lagos. The park organization was now fully legitimate, shipping, real estate, pharmaceuticals, with no traces of its criminal past. He still traveled to Seoul occasionally, but always briefly, always counting the hours until he could return. Olivia had resumed her legal career, working with a Lagos firm that specialized in international business law.
She was brilliant at it.
She had always been brilliant. J1 liked to sit in the back of the courtroom sometimes, watching her argue cases with the same fierce intelligence that had first captured his attention a decade ago. The children had thrived. David was reading at a level 3 years ahead of his age. Michael's artwork had been featured in a children's gallery exhibition. Grace had started dance classes and was already demanding a bigger stage.
They were happy. All of them.
It still surprised J1 sometimes, how easy happiness could be when you stopped fighting it. On a Tuesday evening in November, J1 came home to find Olivia waiting for him in the garden. The children were at a birthday party.
The house was quiet.
The sun was setting over Lagos, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. She was holding something in her hands.
A small white stick. J1's heart stopped. Olivia.
I found out this morning.
Her voice was trembling.
I wanted to wait until we were alone to tell you. He crossed the garden in 3 steps. He took her hands in his.
Are you?
Yes. She laughed, tears streaming down her face. Yes, Olivia said again, as if the word could anchor her to the earth.
I am pregnant. Park J1 did not speak.
For a long moment, he simply stared at the small white stick in her hand like it was a weapon and a miracle at the same time.
His throat tightened until it hurt.
Then he lowered his head, pressing his forehead to her knuckles. Olivia's fingers trembled around his. You are not angry, she whispered. He looked up fast, eyes dark and shocked. Angry.
Last time. Her voice broke.
Last time you told me to get rid of it. The air went still between them. J1's hand lifted slowly, the Korean African tattoo on his wrist visible in the dying light. The interlocked crest and Adinkra symbols seemed to pull the past and present together until there was no escape. I remember, he said.
His voice was quiet. Controlled. But the pain in it was honest.
I remember every syllable. I remember the look on your face, and I remember the sound you did not make.
You did not scream.
You did not beg. You just went silent.
Olivia swallowed hard.
I think something in me died that day.
It did, J1 said. And I killed it.
Olivia's eyes filled.
J1. He shook his head once.
Do not comfort me. Not for that. I do not deserve comfort for that. He took the test from her gently, as if it might shatter. Then he exhaled long and slow. This time, he said, I am going to do it right.
Every appointment.
Every craving.
Every fear.
Every night you cannot sleep. I am going to be there. Olivia's lips parted as if she wanted to argue.
But she could not.
Because in his face, she saw something she had never seen 5 years ago.
Not ownership. Not control. Not pride. Devotion.
Are you happy? She asked, almost afraid of the answer. Jae-won's voice broke. I do not know how to hold this much happiness without being afraid it will be taken away. Olivia let out a shaky laugh through her tears. That is the most honest thing you have ever said.
He cupped her cheek. Yes. I am happy. And I am terrified.
And I love you so much it feels like punishment.
Olivia leaned into his palm.
Then love me better, she whispered.
No more punishments.
Jae-won kissed her forehead, then her temple, then the corner of her mouth, stopping there like he was asking permission without words. You have it, Olivia breathed. They stood in the garden as the sun disappeared, holding on to each other like the night was trying to steal them apart. 2 days later, the danger they thought they had buried clawed its way back up. It began with a call. Tae-sung rang at 1:20 in the morning, his voice a tight whisper that made Jae-won's blood turn cold before he even spoke.
Sir.
We have movement. Jae-won sat up in bed instantly, careful not to jostle Olivia. The room was dark except for the faint light from the street outside. What kind of movement? The operatives we arrested in Lagos. 2 of them are dead. Jae-won's hand tightened around the phone.
How?
They were in police custody.
A power outage hit the station.
Backup generators failed. The cameras went down for 8 minutes.
Tae-sung swallowed hard.
When the power came back, both men were dead.
Throat wounds. Professional. Clean.
Jae-won's mind snapped into a familiar coldness. Shin Eun-ji. She is still in Singapore custody.
But sir, Tae-sung hesitated.
Someone visited her today.
A lawyer. Korean passport.
Diplomatic level clearance. We could not identify him in the system.
A diplomat. Yes, sir.
And within an hour of that meeting, the power outage happened in Lagos. Jae-won stared into the darkness, listening to Olivia's breathing beside him.
Phase 2.
That message had not been empty. Min-ji Eun-ji, whatever name the daughter wore, she had been a piece on a board. Not the hand moving the pieces. Sir, Tae-sung said softly, I think Councilman Shin was not the top of this. I think he answered to someone. Jae-won closed his eyes. Someone above the council. Someone with diplomatic clearance. Someone who could kill in a police station without leaving a trace.
What else? Jae-won asked.
There is more. Tae-sung's voice dropped further. Our security at the children's school reported a woman asking questions this afternoon. She presented herself as a social worker.
Nigerian accent. Proper paperwork.
But the seal was counterfeit. Jae-won swung his legs out of bed. Did she get close to them?
No, sir.
We intercepted before contact was made. But she disappeared before we could detain her. Jae-won stood, pulling on trousers with one hand while holding the phone with the other. I want the children moved, he said.
Tonight. A safe house. Not the Ikoyi compound. Too predictable. Olivia stirred.
His voice had woken her. She sat up slowly, her hair falling across her shoulder. Her eyes were heavy with sleep, then sharpened as she saw his face. What is it? Jae-won stared at her. For a second, he wanted to lie. He wanted to let her sleep. Let her have one more night where she believed peace was real. But lies were what destroyed them the first time. So he told the truth. Get dressed, he said quietly. We are leaving. Olivia did not panic. Not outwardly. That was the thing about women who had survived the kind of fear she had survived. Panic was wasted energy. She moved with efficiency, with silent dread tucked behind her ribs. She packed a bag in 7 minutes. Clothes for the children. Their favorite stuffed animals. Medicine. Their passports and birth certificates, hidden inside a folder beneath the bed. Jae-won watched her, a bitter taste in his mouth. She had never unpacked fully, even in their new home. Some part of her had always known this could happen again. When she turned, her eyes met his. I knew it was too quiet, she said. Jae-won flinched. Olivia. You said it would end if you ended Councilman Shin. And then you said it would end if you ended his daughter. Her smile was thin. How many heads does this snake have, Jae-won? I do not know yet. But I will find out. Olivia stepped closer, lowering her voice. Do not promise me what you cannot guarantee. Promise me what you can control. Jae-won's jaw tightened. What can I control? She touched his wrist, where the tattoo was visible even in the dim light. You, she said. Promise me you will not disappear into your darkness again. Promise me you will not become so obsessed with winning that you forget what you are fighting for.
He caught her hand and held it. I promise, he said. I will not lose myself. Not again. Olivia nodded once.
Then let's go. They woke the children gently. David rubbed his eyes and asked if it was morning. Michael clung to Olivia's neck, half asleep. Grace, always perceptive, stared at her father's face for a long moment before speaking.
Are we running again? She whispered. The word again cut J1 open. Olivia held Grace close.
Just a little trip, baby. Grace did not look convinced.
She looked at J1.
Are you coming with us?
J1 knelt in front of her.
His tattooed wrist rested on his knee.
I am coming, he said.
I am right here. Grace studied him, then nodded as if she had made a decision.
Okay.
But if someone tries to take mommy, you have to bite them.
Michael blinked. Bite.
Grace nodded seriously. Daddy looks like he can bite. Olivia let out a sound that was half laughter, half sob. J1 kissed Grace's forehead.
I will do whatever I have to, he promised.
But no biting in front of you. Grace seemed satisfied. They left the compound at 2:40 in the morning, traveling in 2 vehicles with blackout windows. Legos slept around them. But J1 felt eyes on them anyway. He always felt eyes now. The safe house was not a house at all. It was a private clinic. A clean modern building tucked behind a gated residence in Victoria Island, owned by a Nigerian doctor who owed J1 a debt he could never repay. The clinic was discreet. Staffed 24 hours. Protected without looking like a fortress. The kind of place you could hide a family. The kind of place you could hide a pregnant woman. Olivia's gaze swept the lobby as they entered.
A clinic, she murmured. 4 checkups, J1 said. For the pregnancy.
For the children if they get sick. And because it is harder to attack a medical facility without attracting attention.
Olivia looked at him.
So you think they will attack? I think they will try.
Her eyes hardened. Then we do not stay here.
We leave the country. J1 shook his head slowly.
If we run, they follow.
We already tried that. You tried that for 5 years. I tried that because I did not have you, she snapped. The words hit him like a slap. Olivia's nostrils flared.
Then she exhaled.
I am sorry, she said quietly. That was cruel.
It was true, J1 replied.
And it is exactly why we cannot run. They will not stop because you are Nigerian or because the children are young. They will stop only when the person pulling the strings is exposed and cut off. And how do we do that? J1's expression went still. We use the one thing they want, he said softly. You.
Olivia froze. What?
They think you saw something. They think you have evidence. They think you are the loose end that can destroy them. His eyes locked on hers. We let them believe it. We draw them out. Olivia stared at him, disbelief turning into anger. You want to use me as bait. I want to protect you.
His voice sharpened.
But protection means ending this. Not delaying it. Olivia stepped closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper so the children, distracted by a nurse handing them juice boxes, would not hear.
J1, listen to me. I have done bait.
I have done running. I have done hiding.
Her eyes glistened. I am pregnant.
I will not be hunted while carrying your child.
I will not.
Something in J1's chest softened.
He reached for her. But she stepped back. No, Olivia said.
You promised you would not disappear into your darkness. And this, she gestured between them. This is exactly what you do when you are scared. You turn love into strategy. J1's jaw flexed. For a moment, he looked like the man she had married the first time.
Cold. Calculating. Built from steel.
Then his shoulders dropped. And his voice came out quieter. What would you have me do, Olivia? The question was not a demand. It was surrender. Olivia blinked, startled by it. I want you to tell me the full truth, she said. Not pieces. Not what you think I can handle. The full truth. Who is above Councilman Shin? Who has diplomatic clearance? Who can kill inside a police station? J1's eyes narrowed. He did not want to say the name. Because once he said it, there would be no returning to denial. But Olivia had earned truth with blood and years. So he gave it to her. There is one man, J1 said. One name that fits. He is not in my organization.
He never was.
He is the reason men like Shin exist. Olivia's face went pale.
Who?
Jae-won leaned closer.
A prosecutor, he said. Formerly.
Now a minister. Olivia's breath hitched. A government official.
Yes.
And he is involved with your syndicate. He is involved with every syndicate. He is the bridge between crime and legitimacy. The man who takes blood money and washes it with law.
Olivia's eyes sharpened.
What is his name? Jae-won did not answer immediately. Instead, he looked away, out the clinic window at the quiet Lego street.
Then he said it. Han Dae-suk.
Olivia repeated the name under her breath, as if tasting it. What does he want with me?
He wants you silent, Jae-won said.
Because 5 years ago, you did not just see bank statements. His voice was rough now.
You saw his face. Olivia froze. What? Jae-won turned back to her.
The photograph you described. The Nigerian woman. The words Phase 1. His eyes bored into hers. There was a second photograph, Olivia. You did not mention it because you probably did not recognize its importance. A man shaking hands with Councilman Shin in a private room. Olivia's mind raced, dredging memory from panic and darkness.
A file on a desk. A glance. A face. Her knees went weak. She grabbed the counter. She whispered. I remember. There was a man.
He was smiling. Like he owned the world.
Jae-won's expression tightened.
That is Han Dae-suk. Olivia stared at him in horror. So this is not just about your organization.
No, Jae-won said. It never was. Olivia swallowed hard.
Then what is Phase 1? Jae-won's voice dropped. A plan to take over West African shipping lanes. To control ports, customs, and the flow of goods. Drugs, weapons, pharmaceuticals, everything. Shin was handling logistics. Eunji was handling finance. Han Dae-suk was handling protection from the law.
Olivia's stomach turned. And Sandra Okonkwo?
The woman who looked like me.
A local partner. A translator. A liaison. Jae-won swallowed. A disposable asset.
When she became inconvenient, they killed her. When you became inconvenient, they tried to kill you too. Olivia's hand moved unconsciously to her abdomen. The life growing there.
Olivia swallowed hard.
Then what is Phase 1? Jae-won's voice dropped. A plan to take over West African shipping lanes. To control ports, customs, and the flow of goods. Drugs, weapons, pharmaceuticals, everything. Shin was handling logistics. Eunji was handling finance. Han Dae-suk was handling protection from the law.
Olivia's stomach turned. And Sandra Okonkwo?
The woman who looked like me.
A local partner. A translator. A liaison. Jae-won swallowed. A disposable asset.
When she became inconvenient, they killed her. When you became inconvenient, they tried to kill you too. Olivia's hand moved unconsciously to her abdomen. The life growing there.
Her voice trembled.
Then why did I survive? Jae-won looked at her for a long moment. Then he spoke the truth that made his chest ache. Because you were smarter than all of them, he said. Because you loved your children more than you feared death. Olivia closed her eyes. When she opened them, the tears were there, but her voice was steady. What do we do now? Jae-won leaned in. We stop being reactive, he said. We become the trap. That night, Jae-won arranged a meeting. Not with criminals. With law. A Nigerian anti-corruption investigator named Ao Balogun. A man with a reputation for incorruptibility and a quiet hatred for foreign syndicates feeding on Nigerian infrastructure. Olivia was present, sitting beside Jae-won in a neutral restaurant room reserved under an alias. Ao Balogun studied them both, eyes sharp. I have been told you have information about an international laundering network tied to shipping manifests, he said.
Jae-won nodded once. I do.
And you are willing to offer this information out of the kindness of your heart.
Olivia's lips tightened.
Jae-won did not blink.
No. Ao's mouth twitched. Good. I distrust kindness. What do you want?
Immunity for my wife and children. Nigerian protection.
Immediate.
And an investigation into a Korean official named Han Dae-suk. Ao's gaze sharpened at the name. That is a serious accusation. It is a serious man, Jae-won replied. And he will not fall because I want him to. He will fall only if the right governments cooperate.
Ao leaned back.
You are asking me to start a fire that will reach Seoul. I am asking you to do your job. Ao's eyes moved to Olivia.
And you? What do you want? Olivia held his gaze.
I want my children to stop learning the word again, she said quietly. Ao's face shifted. Something like respect. I can provide protection, he said slowly.
But you need evidence. Not memories. Not stories. Paper. Accounts. Names.
J1 slid a folder across the table.
Ao opened it.
His face tightened as he read. This is extensive.
It is enough to start, J1 said.
Not enough to finish.
Ao looked up.
What is missing? The final ledger, J1 replied. The master document. The one that proves Han Dae-suk took payments and provided cover. And where is it? J1's jaw flexed.
In Seoul, he said.
In Han Dae-suk's private archive. Ao exhaled slowly. Then you will have to take it.
Olivia stiffened. No.
J1 placed his hand over hers, steadying her.
Tattoo visible.
I will not go alone, he said. Ao raised an eyebrow. J1 continued. Olivia is a lawyer. She recognizes documents for what they are. She knows how to verify authenticity.
And if Han Dae-suk sees her, he will panic.
He will make a mistake. Olivia turned to him sharply. So you are using me as bait again. J1's gaze held hers, unflinching.
This time we choose it, he said softly. Together. With protection. With allies. With a plan. Not fear. Olivia looked away. Then she looked back. Her voice was quiet.
If we do this, she said, we end it.
Not for a month.
Not for a year. We end it forever.
J1 nodded. Forever. Ao closed the folder. Then we move fast, he said.
Before your enemy realizes you have stepped into the light. 2 nights later, Olivia stood in front of a mirror in the safe house clinic. She was dressed in a simple black coat, hair pulled back, face bare. There was no jewelry, no softness, no visible vulnerability.
Only her eyes.
Those eyes had seen too much. J1 stood behind her, adjusting the cuff of his sleeve. His tattoo was visible at his wrist. A restrained symbol of a bond that had survived the river. Olivia met his gaze in the mirror. I am scared, she admitted. J1's expression softened. So am I. She let out a small breath. That is new.
Yes. He stepped closer.
But I would rather be afraid and honest than calm and cruel.
Olivia turned, facing him. Promise me something, she said. Name it.
If we get the ledger, she said, and we are safe and the children are safe, you will stop living like the world is a battlefield.
J1 swallowed.
What does that look like? It looks like you letting someone else hold the gun sometimes.
Her voice shook.
It looks like you letting me be your partner, not your weakness. It looks like you believing you deserve peace. J1 lifted his hand, brushing his knuckles along her cheek. I do not know if I deserve it, he murmured. Olivia caught his wrist, holding it so the tattoo faced her.
Then earn it, she said. J1 nodded slowly. I will.
Seoul was winter cold when they arrived. Olivia had not been back in 5 years. The city smelled the same, roasted chestnuts and exhaust, the sharp bite of snow in the air. It felt like stepping into a memory that had teeth. Their security detail was discreet. Nigerian protection working with a small, loyal Korean team J1 trusted with his life. They stayed in a private residence, not the Park estate. Olivia refused to go near the old house.
Not yet.
Not ever, if she could avoid it.
The plan was simple.
Han Dae-suk would attend a charity gala at a hotel in Gangnam, public, crowded, full of cameras. The perfect place to hide in plain sight. The ledger would be in his private suite upstairs, guarded by men who thought no one would be foolish enough to attempt theft during a high-profile event.
They were wrong.
At the gala, Olivia wore a deep red dress that made people look twice. Not because it was revealing. Because it was commanding. She walked beside J1 as if she had never run, never drowned, never begged the river for mercy. J1 kept his hand at the small of her back, a silent claim, his tattoo visible each time his sleeve shifted. The crowd parted for him. Power recognized power. And then Olivia saw him. Han Dae-suk. He was exactly as her memory had painted him. A smile that belonged to someone who had never feared consequence. His gaze landed on Jae-won first, polite, calculating.
Then it moved to Olivia. And the smile faltered.
Just for a fraction of a second.
But Olivia saw it.
Jae-won saw it too. Han Dae-suk recovered quickly, approaching them with a glass of champagne in hand. Chairman Park, he said warmly, as if they were old friends. It has been too long. Jae-won's voice was smooth.
Minister Han.
Han's eyes returned to Olivia.
And this is? Olivia lifted her chin. Olivia Park, she said.
The minister's gaze sharpened, measuring, disbelieving. That is impossible, he murmured, too softly for anyone else to hear.
Olivia smiled. Not warm. Not kind. Just sharp.
People survive impossible things every day, Minister, she said. Some of us even come back. Han's fingers tightened on his glass. Then he smiled again, but it did not reach his eyes. Welcome back, he said. And in that moment, Olivia understood something with perfect clarity.
He had known. All along.
He had known she was not dead. And he had waited. Jae-won's voice was calm as he leaned closer to Olivia, lips barely moving.
He is shaken, he murmured. Good.
Olivia's heart hammered. He is going to move.
Let him, Jae-won replied.
That is how we find the ledger. Olivia held her smile, playing her part in the public performance while privately feeling the ground shift beneath her feet. Across the room, Han Dae-suk turned and spoke to a man in a black suit. The man nodded and slipped away. Jae-won's hand tightened on the edge of a table, tattoo visible as his fingers flexed. He watched the man leave, eyes cold. That is his security chief, Jae-won murmured. If he goes to the suite, the ledger is there. Olivia's mouth went dry. And if he goes to destroy it? Jae-won's eyes darkened. Then we move now, he said. Upstairs, the hallway was quiet.
Too quiet.
Their team moved with silent precision, keycards and codes acquired earlier by an inside contact AO had arranged. They reached the minister's suite.
The door opened.
Inside, the room was dim, curtains drawn. A safe was set into the wall behind a painting. Jae-won crossed to it immediately. Olivia stood by the door, listening. Her heartbeat was loud in her ears. Jae-won worked the safe with practiced ease, hands steady. The tattoo on his wrist flashed each time he turned the dial.
Click. 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 The safe opened.
Inside were stacks of documents, envelopes, a leather-bound ledger. Jae-won's eyes narrowed. He pulled it out carefully. Olivia stepped closer, peering at the first page.
Names. Dates.
Transfers. And then, in clean Korean script. Han Dae-suk.
Olivia's stomach turned. It is real, she whispered. Jae-won nodded once. It is enough.
Footsteps sounded in the hallway.
Fast. Approaching. Olivia's breath caught.
Jae-won snapped the ledger shut and tucked it into a bag. The door handle rattled. Someone was trying to enter. Jae-won's gaze flicked to Olivia.
Go, he mouthed. Olivia shook her head. No, she whispered.
Together.
The lock clicked. The door swung open.
And Han Dae-suk stepped into the suite with two men behind him, his smile gone. His eyes landed on the open safe. On the empty space where the ledger had been.
Then on Olivia. His voice was soft.
You should have stayed dead, he said. Jae-won stepped forward, placing himself between Olivia and the minister, his tattooed wrist visible as his hand lifted. Touch her, Jae-won said quietly, and I will make you disappear so completely that history will forget your name.
Han laughed. A cold, amused sound.
You think you have power over me, Chairman Park? His gaze slid to Olivia's stomach. Do you know how easy it would be to erase you both?
A car accident. A plane malfunction.
A medical complication.
He smiled.
Your wife is pregnant again, is she not?
Olivia went cold.
Jae-won's eyes turned lethal.
Han's smile widened.
Yes, he said softly. I know everything. And behind him, one of his men raised a phone, aiming it not at Jae-won,
but at Olivia.
As if taking a photograph. As if documenting proof. As if sending it to someone. Jae-won lunged. And the lights in the suite went out. Darkness swallowed them whole. Olivia's voice sliced through the black.
Jae-won.
A hand grabbed her wrist, yanking her backward.
Not Jae-won's hand. Not his grip. A stranger.
And then a whisper, right beside her ear. Phase 3 begins now. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you enjoyed this Afro-Korean dark romance, please like, share, and subscribe. Comment the location where you are watching from. And don't forget to hit the bell for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Until next time, stay safe, stay loved, and never give up on your happily ever after.